Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our live stream on Sunday night. I hope you all are doing great tonight, and I hope you had a great day. Hope your day was a really good day. For those of you who are new to my channel and haven't seen my videos before, my name is Sam, and my channel's name is Retire Inspired. And in my channel, I talk about different things that I am doing in my retirement. My retirement experience has been pretty good so far. I retired in January of this year, and I have been enjoying pretty much every minute of it. For those of you who can retire, I encourage you to consider retirement early if you can. Tonight's live stream is about a movement in the United States called the FIRE movement. And what FIRE stands for is Financial Independence, Retire Early. And this is something that has been around since about 1992. There was a best-selling book called Your Money and Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. And this popularized many of the concepts that are used by people in the FIRE movement. The origins of the term and acronym FIRE are unknown, but the term came to embody a core premise of the book. People should evaluate every expense in terms of the number of working hours it took to pay for it. So the Financial Independence Retire Early, or FIRE movement, is a movement of people who are devoted to a program of extreme savings and investment with the goal of retiring far earlier than traditional budgets and retirement plans would permit. Now you might ask, well, what is early retirement? Well, some people retire as early as 40 or 30, some of them even as early as in their 20s. There are people who are able to manage their financial portfolio in such a way that they can be able to retire at a very early age. I retired at the age of 55, and that was in January of this year when I retired at the age of 55. I'm 56 now. So I've been retired for 8 months, almost 9 months now. And it has been a very good thing. I've certainly enjoyed being retired and having the freedom to do things that I want to do, not being stuck behind a desk and having to answer to somebody else, for your livelihood. And of course, there's nothing wrong with going to a job every day if that's what you love to do. If you have a job that you enjoy and you don't really feel like it is work and you just enjoy doing it and you're not interested in retiring, then, that's fine. To each their own. But for me, I did enjoy my job. I always said, if you have a job that you enjoy, you will not work a day in your life. And I still agree with that. And I think with my job that I got into social work, and that's what I ended up doing for a career with the state of Alabama, is working as a master's level social worker. But for many years, I didn't have a master's degree in social work. I had a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And so I was working for the state with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and working in a social work career field. And I enjoyed that work. I found that it was something that really that I felt like I was accomplishing something. I felt like I was helping people. I felt like I was really doing something to make society a little bit better by being a social worker. And I still feel that way. I feel like that the work that I did was important work, and it was work that helped other people. I often said that I felt like I was getting paid to do God's work. And so but I was out doing things that were good for people, and it was God's work, in my opinion. I enjoyed doing that kind of work. Some people are able to retire relatively early, as I said before, even in their 40s, like I said. while others end up working into their 70s and even 80s. Right now in the United States, the average retirement is 65 for men and 63 for women. So it looks like women are actually retiring a little bit earlier than men. But when you talk about the FIRE movement, and again, I'll tell you that that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. It prioritizes greater financial independence through a program of extreme frugality and aggressive investment. FIRE devotees may hope to retire earlier than the conventional retirement age range of 65 to 70, or they may hope to gain greater financial independence. Those who want to retire early may plan to live solely off small withdrawals from their portfolios, or they may incorporate part-time work into their strategy. Proponents of the extreme saving lifestyle remain in the workforce for several years, saving up to 75% of their yearly income. When their savings reach their FIRE number, typically 25 years their annual expenses, they may quit their job or retire from work altogether. To cover their living expenses after retiring at a young age, FIRE devotees make small withdrawals from their savings, typically around 3% or 4% of the balance yearly, depending on the size of their savings and their desired lifestyle. This requires extreme diligence to monitor expenses and dedication to the maintenance and reallocation of their investments. So there are three different kinds of FIRE, so to speak. There are three variations of the FIRE movement. One is the fat FIRE movement. This is for the individuals with a 9-to-5 job who aims to save substantially more than the average worker, but doesn't want to reduce their current standard of living. It generally takes a high salary and aggressive savings and investment strategy for this to work. Then there's the lean FIRE. This individual is devoted to minimalist living and extreme savings, necessitating a far more restricted lifestyle. Many lean FIRE adherents live on $25,000 or less per year. And then there's the barista FIRE. This individual wants to exist between the two choices above. They quit their traditional 9-to-5 job and use a combination of part-time work and savings to live a more than minimalist lifestyle. They might purchase health coverage while keeping their retirement funds intact. So how many people actually are able to achieve FIRE? Hey, good evening, Brad. Good to see you on here. That's my brother, Brad Smith. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight. Hope you and your family are well. So in recent years, the FIRE movement has started getting more coverage in the media. However, only a small percentage of people achieving the early retirement part of the equation. According to Motley Fool data gathered between 2016 and 2022, the percentage of Americans who are retired are in four age brackets. Between age 40 and 44, only about 1% of Americans are retired. From age 45 to 49, about 2%. From age 50 to 54, about 6%, and 55 to 59 is 11%. So that shows that only a very few amount of people are able to get into the FIRE movement or retire before the age of 60. So it's not something that very many people can achieve. My brother, I don't know, Brad, if you're still watching or if you're still there, he was able to retire. I think he was 53 when he retired, and he was able to manage or create a portfolio that allowed him to do so. He retired from the U.S. Army, which gave him a pension. And in just a minute, I will talk about my FIRE plan and how that has worked for me and how I started thinking about my retirement plan at an early age. So if you think about the average income for retired people in the United States, it varies. So Brad says he is new to FIRE. So you've never heard of Financial Independence, Retire Early. even though you kind of lived that example. The way that you retired is kind of along the lines of the FIRE plan. So, like I was saying, the average Social Security benefits for people who are aged 65 and older is $1,862 or $22,344 a year. That's not very much, folks. That's very low income. Yeah, Brad did. He did very well with his retirement plan. So the median American income for an American 65 years and older is $50,290. And the average expenditures for Americans over 65 is $50,290. So, I'm sorry, $57,818 is the average expenditures for Americans, where the income for Americans over 65 is $50,290. So you see that most people in America are actually in retirement are spending more than they actually earn or have received in retirement. But here's another kicker. If you think about retiring at the age of 65, that's the average age that people retire, is 76 years old. 65 years old, the average life expectancy is 76 years old. So if you retire at the age of 65, or in my case, if I were to wait till I was full Social Security age, I would be 67 when I retired. So that would mean that my average age expectancy would only be about 9 years, not even 10 years from the time I retired and the time that my average age, my life expectancy would end. So my opinion is, if you can somehow plan your retirement and do it well and manage a portfolio that is going to get you through retirement, then it is a good idea to do that as early as possible so that you can retire as early as possible. You want to be able to have as many retirement years as you possibly can. Now, if you are one of the people who is the exception to the rule and you live to be in your 80s or 90s, then that is great. Then you get to enjoy your retirement even longer. But if you are the average American, your life expectancy is 76 years old. So that, in my opinion, doesn't give the average person very long to enjoy their retirement. And even if you do live longer than 76 years old, there is a philosophy that people in retirement, if they retire at, say, the age of 55, like I did, then you can still go and do things for about another 10 years in your lifespan. You can get out and you can go and you can do things and you can have an active lifestyle in retirement. So they say that first 10 years of retirement are the go-go years, and that would be if you retire at 65. So that would give me an extra 10 years to be able to go and do things. So if you say you retire at 65, then say 65 to 75 are the go-go years. 75 to 80 are the slow-go years, is what they call them. And then 80 on are the no-go years. That's when you really don't have the ability to go and do things like you did when you were young enough to go and travel and enjoy being mobile and just being able to enjoy the hard work that you put in your retirement so that you could go and have a good retirement. For my FIRE plan, I started at the thinking about retirement when I was 28 years old. At that point, I graduated from college. I was about 25 or 26 years old. I can't remember exactly. But my first step in my plan for retirement was to get a job that has a pension that comes with it. And so I started looking for different places that allow or have a pension. And so one of those places that had the pension was a state employment. So I started putting my applications in with the state. At that time, I thought I was going to be a police officer full time. But then as I was working, I did actually get into a job as a police officer. I had a couple of jobs as a police officer, but those jobs did not pay very much, and they didn't have very good hours, and the risk factor was kind of high as well. So when I had the opportunity to go work for the state of Alabama as a social worker, actually I didn't start out. Their title that they gave me was social worker when I first started working with the state, but then they eventually changed it for people who don't have social work degrees to instead of calling them social workers, they're called social case managers, social service case managers in Alabama. But then I eventually did go back and get my degree in social work, so I was able to legitimately be called a social worker. So the first step that I did in my fire plan or my retirement plan, I didn't know what fire was at the time, was to get a job that has a pension. The second step that I started thinking about as I was with the state for 5 or 6 years, I realized that, even though having a pension is good, it's a really good thing, I needed to have even more income in retirement. And the way to do that was to invest in a secondary retirement account. And so what I did was I started taking my income, and every time I would get a raise, I would invest in a secondary pension or secondary retirement account that I was responsible for myself and that I paid into myself. So there are different kinds of contributions that you can make while you're still working in being able to contribute to your secondary retirement account. But you're only allowed to put in a certain amount per year. In some cases, it's like $5,000 a month. But once you become over the age of 50 years old, I think it is 50, I'm not sure exactly. I'm not a financial planner, so don't consider this financial advice. But I was able to put in more money. Someone is at my door. Hold on just a second, okay? Who is it? Hello? Hey,
you got the bag around here with you?
No, I'm in the middle of the live stream. Are you, give me about 20 minutes, okay?
No, I just leave it to you, Mark.
Okay. Okay, I'm back. That was someone who is interested in renting a house from me, and they stopped in to ask about something. So I was talking about investing in an individual retirement account that is secondary to my pension plan that I'm getting that I would be receiving from the state. So that was my second step, was to look at Brad says, "Who is there?" Yeah, I had to open the door and answer, but I let him know that I would be available in a little bit. So I invested in a secondary IRA, and if you're going to do a secondary IRA, I recommend that you contribute to a Roth IRA. If you're not familiar with the Roth IRA, what that is you're in a lot of the individual retirement accounts, you contribute the money pre-tax, which means that you pay the tax on the back end instead of on the front end. With a Roth IRA, you contribute this money into the Roth plan after tax. So after you have contributed the money, you've already paid your taxes on it. So it is allowed to grow in that individual retirement account. The interest on that is allowed to grow while you're waiting to receive the retirement money. So as that money is sitting there over the years and it continues to grow and grow and grow, then when you are finally able to start receiving that individual retirement account, you're starting to draw the dividends off of that. You've already paid your taxes, so you don't have to pay that again. So the money that you receive off of that with the additional interest is not taxable. So that is the real good thing about the individual retirement account. The third step that I did in preparing for my retirement is to reduce all my debt. I started listening to Dave Ramsey when the last time I was deployed was in 2010. And it was around that time that I discovered a gentleman by the name of Dave Ramsey. And Dave had some real good ideas that he discussed on his podcasts about becoming debt-free and the freedom that allows you to have once you become debt-free. So he didn't, with Dave Ramsey, he didn't talk about FIRE, but in a lot of ways, what he teaches for financial freedom falls right into the FIRE plan. To become financially free, you have to become debt-free. And the best way to be able to become dependent of having to work is to not have a lot of debt and to be able to live debt-free. So you want to live on less than you make. And when I was getting ready to retire, my last few years, probably about the last 8 or 9 years of my working career, I was living on around 25% of the income that I was actually making. So that did a couple of things for me in preparing for my retirement, in being able to live on only 25% of my income. Once I did retire, I actually, my retirement income, it was 50% of my working income. So it was like I got a 25% pay increase. Dave said to tell you hello. Who is Dave? I don't know anyone named Dave except for Dave Conley. So hello, Dave. How are you? So you want to try to live on less than you make, and that prepares you for retirement and being able to manage your debt, if you do have any debt, or your bills in retirement. At the time that I retired, I had my monthly expenditures were around $1,000 or less a month. So when I retired and I started receiving my pension after the money was taken out for my health insurance, for mine and my wife's health insurance, the take-home monthly is currently around $3,500 or $3,600 a month, which more than takes care of the $1,000 of expenses that I had. I did go out and purchase a vehicle. Valerie White. Hey, Valerie. How are you tonight? Good to see you. Oh. Oh, Dave Ramsey. Okay, I got you now. Hey, Valerie. Welcome to the live stream. I'm not familiar with you. If you're new to my channel, tell us a little bit about you. It's good to have you on here tonight. So if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any experience that you want to provide as far as what you did to prepare for your retirement, I would love to hear from you as well. And welcome, Jim from Gumball Gold. Good to see you on tonight. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, if you have any experiences that you all did in preparing for retirement, what kind of fire plan did you have? What was your plan to retire early if you retired early? And if you didn't have a plan to retire early, what did you do? And how were you able to become financially independent of a 9-to-5 job? So as I mentioned before, I've gone through 3 steps. The first one was to get a job that has a pension. The second one was to invest in a secondary retirement account in addition to my regular pension. The third one is to reduce all my debt and become debt-free, live on less than I make. I lived on 25% of my disposable income. And then the fourth step that I took to become debt-free, to be able to retire, was to take my disposable income, invest it into real estate. So what I did was I started building up my cash reserves until I got enough to purchase some real property. And the first 2 properties that I purchased were actually not with the disposable income. I had a house that well, I'll give you the backstory so that you'll know how I was able to do that. Something happened in my life that really, I would say, was a game changer. I got deployed in 2010 after, that was my, actually 9/11/01 is when I got deployed. And when I got deployed, I had a house in a small town in Alabama called Hurtsboro. And this house was actually not a great thing for me at the time because I had already moved here to Montgomery. And this was in 2007 when I moved to Montgomery. So when I got deployed after that, I still had this house in Hurtsboro. So I still had the payment on the house in Hurtsboro. It was only about $300 a month, but it was still a payment. And it was something in addition to the house payment that I had here in Montgomery that I didn't really need the house payment. So it was kind of an albatross around my neck to still have that house payment. But I got deployed, and I got sent to Florida. Actually, I was in Montgomery for a lot of the time. So I put that house on deferment as far as the payment goes because there's a thing that is available to service members when you're involuntarily deployed. You're allowed to ask the bank to withhold or to stop payment on the mortgage while you're deployed, because if you're like working a civilian job and you might go to a military job where you're making less than you did when you were working the civilian job, it can create a real hardship financially on people. But that's called the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act. And so I sent a letter to my creditor, who was the lien holder on the house, and I notified them that I wish to use the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act to put my payments on deferment while I was on active duty on orders, presidential orders. So instead of doing that, the bank, who I don't know if I should mention the name of the bank or not, but they foreclosed on the house, and they decided to go ahead and foreclose on the house because I quit making the payments. But I did send them a letter. I followed all the rules that I was supposed to follow. And so they foreclosed on the house. And when I came back from my deployment, the house was gone. And I will tell you the bank's name. It was Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo decided to foreclose on the house. So they foreclosed on this house. I had continued to make my payments on my primary residence, but I had put that on, asked for a hold on that until I got back from my deployment. So they foreclosed on the house. Well, a year later, a year passed. My credit was totally destroyed because I had a foreclosure on my record. The bank contacted me and they wanted to resolve the issue with the foreclosure. Apparently, not unbeknownst to me, I didn't have any knowledge of this, but the United States government had sued Wells Fargo along with several other banks who had done similar things, violating federal law. Hello, Brent Mania. Welcome tonight. Good to see you on here tonight. So they had violated federal law and foreclosed on the house. And so they sent me a letter, or they actually called me. At first I thought it was a joke. I thought it was some kind of a hoax. But they contacted me and they said, "Look, we want to resolve this. We want to get this taken care of. And what would it take to do that?" And I said, "Well, first of all, you need to take it off my credit, and my credit needs to be restored." And then they said, "Well, what kind of monetary benefit would you feel like would take care of this?" And I said, "Well, how about $1,500? Because I wasn't even sure if it was real anyway." But so anyway, they did agree to send me $1,400. So they sent me $1,400, and then about 8 or 9 months later, I got a letter from Wells Fargo stating that the federal government had sued and they had successfully won the lawsuit against Wells Fargo because they had violated federal law. And I was the recipient of hopefully everyone is doing well tonight. Thanks, Brent. But I was the recipient of a windfall of that lawsuit the federal government filed on my behalf. I received a total of about $175,000. And that was one of the greatest blessings that I had ever had in my life. When I first got the letter, I thought, this cannot be real. It was like I had won the lottery. It was amazing. So I took that, I went ahead and filled out whatever paperwork they needed me to fill out, and I got my check for $175,000. And I took that money and I paid all of my debt. I had a house that I still owed about $75,000 for. The debt on the first house that had been foreclosed was forgiven, so I didn't have to worry about that. I bought that house for $25,000, and then I refinanced it and took the equity out of it before they did the foreclosure. So I had borrowed about $20,000 in addition to the $25,000 that I already owed on the house. So I owed about $45,000 on it when they foreclosed. So I was forgiven of that debt, and my credit was cleared up, and then I was given a check for $175,000. And that I'm telling you was one of the biggest windfalls, one of the biggest breaks that I've ever had in my life. I don't know if I'll ever get another break like that, but it was able to, because I was able to take that money and pay off all of my debts, it made a huge difference in my life. So I was able to pay off that house. But when I get back to my story about taking my disposable income and buying real estate with it, what I ended up doing is I did keep aside about $30,000 of that money, and actually I kept more than that. I kept about $80,000 that money in a bank account, and $25,000 of it was earmarked to pay taxes when I had to pay taxes for the income, for the revenue that I received. So I did have a pretty hefty tax bill that next year. It was around $25,000 or $30,000 that I had to pay in taxes. So I had that money that I had set aside so I could do that. But what I did is I sold that house. It was not in a neighborhood that I really wanted to be in anymore. I had gotten married and moved to a different neighborhood. And so I took that money for that house, and it was a perfect time. It was like the perfect storm. It was a perfect time in the economy. The housing market had collapsed in 2008, but it was on the mend. It was recovering some, but I was able to take the money that I got for the house. I sold it for $80,000, and I was able to buy two more houses with that money. I paid 17,500 for one house, and then I paid 22,000 for another house. So I was able to pay cash for two houses. So that was step 4 of my plan, um, was to take that disposable income and invest it into real estate. I had two houses. Now I was generating income off of two houses that I was renting, and I was able to put that money aside and invest in more property. So I ended up buying more property, more houses as while I was still working. And that worked out really good because I was paying cash for the properties that I purchased. I wasn't borrowing money so that I could buy these houses. And as I bought one house and did whatever renovations that needed to be done on it to make it uh, a good rental house, then I was able to take that money, put it aside, and kind of snowball that money into having enough money to buy another house. So that's what I did. That was my fourth step, was to take that disposable income that I had and invest in property that would go up in value rather than something that would go down in value, and not borrow money on it either. So it helped me to be able to have that property that continues to go up in money, in value, and have that as part of my portfolio, but also to be receiving an income on that property. So the whole plan, when I bought the properties, was to be able to have that income as I entered into retirement, which allowed me to have that freedom to retire. In addition to being at a point where I was debt free, and the only expenses that I had were my utilities and that sort of thing. So, like I said, my monthly expenses were at the time I retired were less than $1,000. So it was uh, it was real good, optimal. Um, the way I had everything set up was optimal for me to have the freedom to be able to retire at the age of 55, which I actually did. So I call that my fire plan. And then the last and the final step of my fire plan, or my retirement plan, was to find something, a side hustle that I enjoy, that not only occupies my time in retirement, but it also produces income. And so if you've been watching this channel for any period of time, you know that I sell on eBay part-time, and it is actually doing really well this year. Last year, I was working full-time. I didn't retire until January of this year. So last year, I worked the entire year, and I still, just coming up here and working the eBay for a couple of hours a day, not even every day, I was able to generate an income of $47,000 last year. Now, not all of that was that wasn't the gross income. That was the net. The gross was 47,000. The net was not 47,000. The net was somewhere around 30,000. But still, that's $30,000 that I can take and invest it into other things, or I can even invest it back into eBay, which is a lot of the money that I generate from eBay. I end up investing back into the products and the stuff that I buy to sell on eBay. But the fifth and final step that I used in order to be able to enter this retirement was Valerie. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I didn't recognize your last name, Valerie. Good to see you on here. Is William watching with you? Okay. So I know my brother Brad, who is also watching, has invested in real property, and it's worked out really well for him. He actually purchased a mobile home last when he first, actually it was before he retired. So he had it for a couple of years. He had a mobile home that he bought, and I think he borrowed money to buy that. Uh, but it ended up working out really well for you, didn't it, Brad? Because you were able to sell that mobile home and make, I think, over $1 million is what you told me that you made on it, because you bought it for $1 million and then you sold it for like 2.5 or something like that. So that worked out pretty good for you, and you were able to take that money and then invest it into other properties, which was a pretty smart move on your part, I think. So now you have an actual business that you run in your retirement that keeps you occupied and gives you something to do every day. It gives you a place to go and something to do. So so Valerie, is William watching with you, or are you just watching by yourself? I'm just curious. So I'm going to open the floor up for anybody who has any ideas or suggestions or any questions about retirement, or I'm really interested in hearing what you all have done. For those of you who are retired, or for those of you who are getting ready to retire, what are you doing to prepare for retirement if you're not yet retired? And if you are retired, what did you do to prepare for retirement? So there are some considerations when you are preparing for a financial independent, retire early. Whether you want to retire early or gain more financial independence while continuing to work, the FIRE lifestyle requires planning. It doesn't just happen, folks. In order to be able to be successful in retirement, you have to really put a lot of active thought into preparing for retirement. I would be interested in hearing what Brad did and how he planned out his retirement, because it did work out really well for him. And I'm interested in Jim. Jim, it has an Airbnb that he uses for income in retirement. But I was just curious if any of you all have, like, I know Brad has a pension with the military. But for the FIRE movement, you won't reach FIRE just by putting your money in the bank. You never will reach FIRE just by putting your money in the bank, even if you choose a high yield savings account. However, that doesn't mean that you should be reckless when choosing investments. Start by maxing out any employer-sponsored retirement savings plans. So if you have an employer that matches for your retirement plan, if they give you a match, then that is perfect, because you're doubling your money, and your employer is helping you get closer and closer and ready for retirement when the time comes. And then once you are able to do that, you want to consider, as I said before, contributing to traditional or Roth IRA. As of 2024, individuals can contribute $23,000 to an employer-sponsored plan like a 401k, plus a catch-up contribution of $7,500 if they're aged 50 or older. So that means that you can contribute like up to $35,000 or $40,000. I think in my last working year, I was able to contribute $42,000 into my secondary Roth IRA. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had not followed the plan of being out of debt. I'm not sure what park means, Brad. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. So Jim says, I'm in the process of rotating all my gumball machines home to upgrade the max to 50 cents. So Jim has an Airbnb, but he is also in the last year or so has gotten into uh, putting out gumball machines in the town of Oxford, Mississippi, where he lives. And so that's really interesting what he's doing. He's buying these gumball machines, and he is placing them in his community and going around collecting the money, and he's doing really well with it. I can't remember your exact numbers, Jim, but I think he's like doing several $1,000s a month just filling his gumball machines and collecting the money from that. So that's his side hustle that he has decided to get into, is doing the gumball machines and Airbnb. So he has an Airbnb there in Oxford, Mississippi. And that's actually how I first met Jim, because he had a YouTube channel called Oxford Superhost. And in the Airbnb world, if you're a superhost, that means uh, that you're considered a very dependable host. And so that's where he got his name for his original channel. But it has now changed to Gumball Gold, because he's changed the focus of his channel to his gumball collection activities. So what does FIRE really mean? The acronym for FIRE stands for Financial Independence. Retire early. It's a movement that prioritizes cutting expenses, saving, and investing with the goal of retiring early or gaining more financial freedom. How does FIRE work? Followers of FIRE plan to retire much earlier than traditional retirement age of 65 by dedicating up to 75% of their income to savings while still in the full-time workforce. When the savings reach approximately 25 times their yearly expenses, they may quit their day jobs completely and retire from any form of employment. What are some FIRE variations? Within the FIRE movement are several variations. Fat FIRE attempts to save more while giving up less. Lean FIRE requires devotion to minimalist living. And barista FIRE is for those who want to quit their 9-to-5 rat race and are willing to cut back their spending while working only part-time. So Jim says, also selling gumballs parts on eBay, made over 300 so far. Okay, that's great. So one of the things that Jim did on his channel, he talked about changing the mechanisms out on his gumball machines. They used to have like 25-cent mechanisms, and he has changed them now to 50-cent mechanisms, and now he's selling the old mechanisms that he took out of the gumball machines. So Brad says, you said I purchased a mobile home, but it was a park. Mobile home park is what I meant to say. Yes, he purchased a mobile home park. So thank you for that correction. So if you do not have a financial advisor, I suggest that you go onto Dave Ramsey's website and look up his preferred providers that he has. That he has a whole list of people that he trusts that are vetted financial advisors. So go onto his website and contact one of them and see if you can get a financial advisor that will give you good financial advice that will help you prepare for retirement. Because I don't consider myself a financial expert. I am very far from being a financial expert. I consider myself to have very little knowledge of the financial world, but one of the things that I did that I think has really been a good thing since I retired is I turned all of my assets over to a financial advisor. Not all of my assets. My secondary Roth retirement account, it is being managed by a financial advisor with the company that I am investing with. I'm real curious for the folks who are online tonight, if who all is investing into a Roth IRA, or who is doing a side hustle besides. I know Jim is doing the gumball side hustle, but what are some other side hustles that people are doing? I know Brad, he's turned his side hustle into a full-time job, and so he's turned that into more money than he's actually receiving through his military retirement. One other thing that I haven't mentioned here, and this is also a factor that I had considered in my retirement plan. If you think about retirement, what you really want to do is you want to think about it like a stool. If you have a stool with just one leg, it's not very stable. If that one leg were to get knocked out from under you, then you would fall to the ground. But if you had a stool with 4 or 5 legs on it, you could lose one of those legs and still not fall to the ground. So I think about retirement, and the way I would relate it is like the legs on the stool would be the streams of income that you have coming in. So you don't want to just retire on one stream of income. If anybody thinks that they're going to retire on Social Security and live on Social Security alone, you're living in a dream world, which will turn into a nightmare, because the average person is not going to be able to live on Social Security alone. So what I mean by that is, in addition to having a pension, in addition to having a secondary retirement account, the Roth IRA that I have, I also served part-time in the military, in the Guard and the Reserves, and I did 8 years of active duty service before I got out and went into the Guard and Reserves and started working for the state of Alabama. So I have another pension that I will be receiving at the age of 59 and a half from the military. So that is also going to serve as one of those legs in the stool that I'm referring to, that will help support me in my retirement. So my plan as I go forward, right now I'm just receiving my pension from the state. I'm receiving my income from my rental houses, and I'm receiving the income that I get from eBay. Those are the 3 sources of income, the 3 streams of income that I have currently. But when I turn 59 and a half, I will start receiving my retirement from the military, because in the Guard and Reserves, you don't start receiving your retirement till you turn age 60. But because I was served in a war zone, you're able to, for every year that you serve in a war zone, then they take 6 months off of the time that you're required to start receiving your military retirement. So I'll be able to start receiving mine at 59 and a half instead of 60. Brad says, getting lots of PM contacts and master leases not. So business is evolving. I'm not sure what that means. PM contacts and master leases not. So business is evolving. Okay. If you can be a little bit more specific, I'd love to hear more about that. We have a new mobile home park in Dothan. Okay, so you have purchased another mobile home park. Good for you. So that military retirement is going to serve as another income once I turn 65 and a half. And then when I turn 62, which is 6 more years, I'll be eligible to start receiving Social Security. So at that point, once I turn 62 years old, then I will be able to I will be receiving all of the streams of income that I will be eligible to receive in my lifetime. So I'll have the pension, I'll have the secondary Roth IRA, which I will start drawing when I turn 62. I could draw that now if I wanted to, but I've decided to leave it in there and keep it there until I turn 62, so that when I start drawing my Social Security, I can also start drawing that secondary pension as well at the same time. So I will have my pension that I'm drawing now, my rental income, my eBay if I'm still doing that, which I don't know if I'll still be doing that at the age of 62. I probably will, as long as I'm still enjoying it. And then I'll have my military retirement and my Social Security. So that'll be 5 streams of income that I will have. And the only sources of that income that actually requires me to do work would be the eBay. And I really don't consider that work because it is so much fun. I enjoy doing it a lot. So Brad says PM equals property management. Okay. So so you're managing property for other people. That's right. I forgot about that. So you've expanded your business model a little bit, and you're now managing property for others. Okay, and the new part is property management. So you don't actually own the new part; you are managing it for someone else. That's very interesting. I hope that I hope it's doing well for you so far, and I hope that you have been able to add new clients to your portfolio, and that they are able to provide a good source of additional income as well. So I have come up almost on an hour now. I usually stay on for about an hour, but I have really enjoyed talking with you all about the FIRE movement, which stands again for Financial Independence and Retire Early. FIRE. Something that I have had known about when I was in my younger years. If my son happens to watch this video, I hope that he can look at this as something that he can plan for, because he will, everyone gets to retirement at some point or another, and you can either be prepared for it or you can be shocked by not being prepared for it. If you get to the retirement age and you don't have the income that you need to maintain your monthly expenses, it can be devastating, and it can be heartbreaking what it can do to somebody in their older age. When you get to be 55, 65, 75, 85, and on up, those should be your golden years. Those should be the years that you enjoy the most in life. You have worked your whole life. You deserve to be able to take a break at some point, right? That's my philosophy anyway. I think everyone should be able to retire when they have worked a full 20, 25 years or more. You should be able to retire. You should not be expected to work until you're 70 or 65 or 80. You should be able to retire and enjoy the fruits of your labor that you have worked for all of your life. So my encouragement to anyone who's watching this who is not yet retired or getting ready to retire is, consider these things that you can do to prepare yourself. Because if you don't prepare for retirement, someone once said, a failure to plan is a plan to fail. And it is so true. If you don't plan, if you don't make good plans, or if you're not purposeful in planning for your retirement, it is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Or you may be at a point where many Americans are now, where they cannot retire. Enjoy the show. Next time, let's get voice chat. Okay. But you don't want to be caught with your pants down when you get to retirement age. You want to be in a position where you can have that financial freedom, and you can go and live and enjoy your life, what you have left. So again, I want to thank you all. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Valerie. And thank you all for joining tonight. I enjoyed doing the research to prepare for this live show tonight, and I hope that you all can join me again next Sunday at 6:30 p.m. I will try to have another live chat next Sunday, and we'll be able to discuss another topic that is of interest. So again, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for contributing to the conversation, and I hope that you all have a very blessed week. Hopefully this weather continues to cool down. We're looking for cooler weather as we get into fall and getting into the third quarter. eBay is going to be a real strong driving force for me because I will be selling a lot of items in the third quarter. That's the best quarter to sell items on eBay. So I hope you all have a great night. I enjoyed getting to talk with you all tonight, and I hope that you all have a blessed week. And I will see you again next weekend. Y'all have a good one. Love you guys, and bye-bye.